I lost over 100 pounds. I'm addressing this video to my former self, so if you think some of these are a little harsh, don't say I didn't warn you, use what's useful. Number 1, you can get fat as fuck eating healthy, especially if you're not tracking your calories. At the end of the day, fat on your body comes down to energy balance, otherwise known as calorie balance. If you're eating too many calories, your body's gonna store it for later as fat. If you're not eating enough calories to keep the lights on, your body is gonna take the energy it's stored as fat and use it to make up the difference. So no matter what, even if you're eating healthy, you can still eat too many calories, which is then gonna turn to fat. One of the biggest ways I used to do this was eating protein items like protein bars, protein donuts, protein ice cream, telling myself it's healthy. Well, yes, it's healthy and no food is inherently bad, or no food just like immediately makes you fat. Eating too many calories and not tracking that will make your body store those extra calories as fat. I see this a lot where people overeat anyways, and then they're trying to hit their protein goal, so then they add in a protein shake or protein bar, and then yeah, you hit your protein goal, but you're over in your carbs and your fat, which is putting you over in your calories, which is putting you into a calorie surplus, and you're not gonna lose fat in a calorie surplus. So even though you're eating healthy, it still comes down to energy balance, calorie balance at the end of the day, so make sure you're tracking your calories to be aware of how many you're consuming, and then you can make changes from there. Number 2, you don't get bulky from too much muscle, you get bulky from too much fat. So many women shy away from the things that are gonna make them gain muscle, thinking that they're gonna look like a man or look bulky. First of all, you don't just drink a protein shake, do a squat, and turn into the Hulk. It's not that easy to put on muscle. You have to be super intentional and consistent over a stretch of time. Second, when I was cutting for my bodybuilding show, and when I was super cut and lean at like 13% body fat for my show, nobody on social media was calling me bulky at that point. There was a few that said I looked like a man, but a man's generally more muscular than a woman. Is that a bad thing? I don't think it's a bad thing. When I got called bulky was when I had more fat on my body. So I had a DEXA scan done when I started prep and when I finished prep. I had the same amount of muscle on my body. I maintained my muscle. I lost the fat. People didn't call me bulky anymore, but I got called bulky before. I looked toned, shredded, all of these things, but bulky was not one of the things that I heard at that point. So, case in point, it's not the muscle that makes you bulky, it's the fat. Having muscle and losing the fat makes you look toned. So please, I beg of you, don't shy away from the things that are gonna make you build muscle, like prioritizing protein and focusing on resistance training over calorie burn. Number 3, don't eat back the calories you burned. When you're doing this, you're eating yourself out of a calorie deficit. What I mean by this is 2 things. Number 1, on MyFitnessPal, there's a setting. If you have your fitness device hooked up to MyFitnessPal and this setting is turned on, then MyFitnessPal adds those calories that you think you burned into your daily calorie allotment and messes up everything that you've got going on there. So if that's happening, or disconnect your tracker from MyFitnessPal if you can't turn the setting off. Number 2, often when we look at the calorie burn from our fitness device, I guess in my case it's my Oura Ring, if you see or you think that you burned more calories in a certain workout, it's easier to justify for yourself eating the shitty food as a treat that's actually a punishment, because those things don't make you feel good anyways. Maybe emotionally or tastily. If you have a lonely mouth, it feels good for a second while it's in your mouth. But after that, you just feel shitty about it generally, or you physically don't feel that well. So my suggestion would be less concerned with the calories you're burning and more concerned with the calories that you're putting into your mouth. Number 4, peanut butter is not a protein source, and neither are nuts, neither is edamame, neither is beans, quinoa. All of these things have protein in them, but they are not a protein source. By the time you hit your protein goal, the amount of calories that you had consumed would be way over what you would need to eat in a day. You'd be way over in your fat macro also, because peanut butter, while it does have protein, it has way more fat. Even things like cheese. Cheese generally contains protein, but it has more calories coming from fat than it does from protein. Beans, quinoa contains protein, but it has way more carbs in it than it does protein. So again, if you tried to hit your protein goal by eating quinoa, you'd be way over in your calories for the day, putting you into a surplus, and you'd be way over in your carbs specifically, even though you hit the protein goal. An easy way to tell if something is a good source of protein or not is to take the amount of grams of protein it has, times that by 10, and if it's more than the calories of the item, it's a good source of protein. So something like chicken breast, for example, for 120 calories of chicken breast, you're getting 26 grams of protein. If you times 26 by 10, you get 260. That's way more than 110. Chicken breast, great source of protein. Most protein powders, you get about 24 grams of protein per 110 calories. Times 24 by 10, 240. That's way more than 110. Great protein option. Whereas something like peanut butter, for 190 calories, you're only getting 8 grams of protein. If you times 8 by 10, that's only 80, nowhere near 190. Peanut butter, not a good source of protein. Another quick way to tell, if you're not good at math, you still have to math though, but if the protein grams in the item is more than the fat and carb grams combined, it's generally a good source of protein. Feel free to use those 2 tips the next time you're trying to figure out if something is a good source of protein or not. Number 5, some people are overweight because they binge, and some are overweight because they graze, and some are fucked because they do both. So sometimes, for me, I was a big emotional eater, and I got to the point where it was some form of self-punishment. I would eat until my stomach actually hurt, and it was like things like ice cream or chips or popcorn or whatever, things that weren't good for me and were very calorie dense generally. I also had a little bit of a thing around money mindset and free food. And so back when I was working in the dental clinic, often we'd have lunch brought in, or patients would drop off candy and stuff like that. And because it was free, and in my mind, like, it was a scarcity thing and I didn't have to pay for it, so like, get as much as I can, and then I'd overeat, not looking at what it's actually costing me. There'd be days when I had food prepped and brought along with me to work that were conducive to what my plan was, but then someone would order pizza and I'd just fucking send it. Why? So once I wrapped my head around that and realized those things were actually, they weren't free, they were costing me. And they were costing me in ways of like my self-trust and probably my dignity a little bit, and adding a lot of shame into how I felt about myself. So those are a couple of the ways that I was justifying binge eating without even really knowing what I was doing. And then the other way is the grazing, the snacking all day long. You really don't need snacks in between meals. It's just a habit that you've created for yourself. Again, put your pitchfork down. Don't be upset. If you feel yourself being upset, maybe look in the mirror and see if it does fit for you, and that's why you're getting upset. For me, I did a lot of snacking, not understanding that all of those calories, while it might seem like a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bite of a cookie, like one drink won't hurt, and then before you know it, you've grazed your way right out of your calorie deficit. But it doesn't feel like you're eating that much because it's just little bits here and there on top of the meals that you're eating, and then you overconsume for the day. It's something to be aware of, and once you're aware of it, you can make a new choice in the future. Number 6, alcohol stalls fat burning. I once had a client that thought vodka didn't have calories, but here's the thing. Alcohol is the 4th macro. You've got protein, you've got carbs, you've got fat, you've got alcohol. Alcohol contains 7 calories per gram, and it doesn't really fit in anywhere in the macronutrients. It's just empty calories that have no nutritional value, and it's actually toxic for your body. So your body is going to try and metabolize that first to get rid of that and get it out of the system, which in turn stalls your fat burning. And then to double down on that, when you drink alcohol, you generally make other poor choices, like getting a little snacky, grazing your way out of your calorie deficit, or you go out for a meal and have a couple glasses of wine. That meal out is probably way more calorie dense than if you had made food at home, and you're just trying to be social and fit in. And I get this because I was someone who needed to be loved because I didn't love myself. Let's face it. I would just do whatever my friends were doing to fit in and adapt to the room instead of influencing the room myself and then seeing who's there. Because sometimes you're in the wrong room and you're compromising what you actually want and you're compromising your values in order to be liked by people that you don't really even fit in with. You can't be yourself around them. I was at a motorcycle training camp this past week, and it was a dry camp for the week, meaning no alcohol. And one of the girls there said, I've never felt more myself without alcohol. Like, often I have to drink in order to be social, or I would consider myself an introvert. And I looked her dead in the eyes and I said, maybe you're in the wrong room. And I think that landed for her in such a way that nothing has landed before. Sometimes you're in the wrong room. And it's okay to admit it. If you can get yourself to influence the energy in the room instead of adapting to it, you can just be yourself. And when you do that, you've never felt more you than you do in that moment. So if for you, like it was for me, alcohol, a way to disconnect or to fit in, just keep in mind that that's actually toxic for your body. I'm not saying I don't ever drink, but keep in mind, it's toxic for your body. And if you're using it as a tool to try to fit in or try to be more extroverted, maybe you're just in the wrong room. Number 7, If it's in the house, it's going down, and not in a good way. I learned I had to not bring things that were slippery slopes for me into the house, like ice cream and sometimes protein bars. Something that's deemed healthy generally, you can still overeat it. And if you have it in the house, it's a lot easier to do than if you don't. I had protein bars that during prep, I had to put them in the freezer because I would just overconsume them. And then even putting them in the freezer didn't help because I'd still eat them frozen. Yeah, I know. So if you don't bring it into the house, you can't eat it. The second part of this is you need to stop justifying the reasons that you're bringing it into the house. The biggest one I see amongst our clients, and the ways I justified it for myself, was it's for the kids. Or if you have a spouse or partner, it's for them. You're trying to make them happy. Well, really, you're just, with your kids, setting them up for going through the same struggles that you're going through right now when they're an adult. Or if it's for someone else in your life that you love, is bringing them shitty food love? Something to think about. Number 8, if you didn't plan dinner, don't worry, Uber Eats already did. I get it. You had a long day. You want to sit down and kick your feet up. You're tired of cooking for everyone else. You've probably got decision fatigue because you're making decisions all day long. So if you didn't plan for dinner, it is so much easier and very convenient these days to either push a few buttons on your phone and it's there, or make a phone call, stop through a drive-through on the way home, and then poof, out the window goes your weight loss. This is why it's super important to have a plan, and then at least try to stick to the plan. You're not always going to be perfect and stick to the plan. There's going to be weak moments where you make choices that were based from past self and not future self. You're going to make choices out of your old habits and patterns. You're not going to be like a switch, a light bulb, flick and you're healed. It's a growing phase. You're literally changing everything that you were, your identity, your habits, your beliefs, day by day. It's a continual cycle of refinement, over and over and over. The work is never done. And I don't say that to discourage you. I say that to give yourself some grace, because you're not going to be perfect. And if you have the all or nothing mindset of it's either black or white, then when you get one flat tire, you end up slashing the other 3 instead of just, tire's flat, how can we fix this? And move forward. Get rolling again. Everything in life has a better chance of success if you have a plan. And if you are not willing to make the decision and have the plan, the decision will be made for you, and it's generally not in your favor. Number 9, you can always depend on a mom to get the job done, unless the job is herself. Ain't nobody got time for that. Or there's too much guilt and shame around actually prioritizing our own health, like we're being selfish in a bad way. But actually, if you prioritize yourself, you're giving everyone else around you an example of what their standard should be. I used to have such bad mom guilt, or whatever you want to call it, when I would prioritize myself, whether it was going to the gym, just having time alone, like traveling, even something like working. And one day I realized a very important question to ask myself, and it goes like this. Feel free to take it if you want it. Is the life I'm currently living one that I would want for my daughter or son? Or if you're not a mom, someone you love. Would you want them to be living this life and sacrificing, being a martyr for the mission? Or would you want them to prioritize their own health? Especially as a mom, because when you start prioritizing yourself, eating healthy foods, cooking great meals, things like that, that's gonna help everyone else that's in your circle and in your life to improve their health too. When you start being the person that wants to go out for a walk after family dinner instead of sitting your ass down and watching Netflix, you become the family that is active together. Well, isn't family time sitting and watching a movie? Man, it's almost like you can't be more disconnected while connected with someone when you're watching a movie. Like, yeah, you're having the shared experience of watching something together, but there's no connection and interaction amongst them. Whereas if you go out for a walk, you can laugh and joke and tell stories and build memories, which sounds like a better way to set up success for your family in the future. By me prioritizing my health and letting my kids see me weigh my food, it's not a bad thing. One last thing about this. I posted a video a couple days ago about fat loss in some way. Someone in the comments said something about how it's so much better for my children now that I'm not alluding to spending so much time on myself or being obsessed with fat loss. And my response back was, it is comments like these that make insecure women or the mom guilt women feel even shittier about themselves and have more shame instead of being an example of health and fitness for your children and something for them to aspire to be. And it's comments like that that do so much damage to people if we're not choosing our words wisely. The person who made the comment backed down and was like,
oh, that's not what I meant. Like, I'm an example for my children too.
Great, let's choose our words a little bit better so that we aren't harming people with our words, whether it's intentional or not. Number 10, steps are basic, but basic bitches win. I totally used to be the person who overate and then try to do cardio the next day to make up for the calories that I ate. I had to like log into MyFitnessPal how many calories I ate. Approximately, I'd probably always underestimate because I never actually weighed the things because of shame. It was a best guess, but more on that later. And then I tried to do cardio in the morning to make up for it. And then I was spending time in areas that were getting me like the least return on investment because I was just perpetuating the cycle. Whereas if I had focused on just getting 10,000 steps a day, eating more whole foods, nervous system regulation and emotional state regulation, self-awareness, adequate protein and resistance training, and just the basics, those things would have gave me the most bang for my buck over trying to cardio myself into fat loss. There doesn't need to be novelty in fat loss. Consistently doing boring basic things is what's going to get you there. Number 11, your body tracks your food whether you do or not. Just because you didn't track it, your body knows and it's showing up. And then you get frustrated with yourself because you kind of finagled your way in your MyFitnessPal log to make it look like you're in a calorie deficit, but you're not. And whether you track it or not, it shows up on your body. If you ate the whole pizza and entered 2 slices, even though MyFitnessPal doesn't know, your body knows how many calories you put into it, and it's going to distribute those calories and macronutrients appropriately. So if you ate too many calories, it's going to store them on your body for later as fat. So even if you're not tracking your calories, your body shows receipts. Number 12, if you don't have fit friends, you'll probably never be fit. And if you don't have fit friends, maybe you need to be the fit friend to build your own table, so to speak, and have the fit friends come to you. If you go back to number 6 on when I went on a rant about alcohol, and sometimes you need to influence the energy in the room instead of adapting to it, same thing with finding fit friends. Sometimes you might have to just switch up your friend circle a little bit, spend some time with different people to acquire different habits and different ways of living a lifestyle. Often fat loss comes down to environment and the sum of the whole. So if the environment that you're in, meaning the people you hang out with too, are not conducive to weight loss, it's pretty hard to make progress in your weight loss. If you make friends with people who are fit or have the habits of fit people, you are more likely to spend time doing things that will make you fit and build the habits of a fit person. Well, where would I find fit friends? Definitely not at the bar. Pick up a new hobby. Go to a drop-in rec league of volleyball or something. Go show up for pickleball. Go to a motorcycle club. Go to a dirt biking club. Do something that is different than what you're currently doing to go find some new friends. And if all else fails, ask your current friends if they'd like to go for a walk instead of going out to the bar or to a movie. Influence the energy instead of adapting to it. Number 13, a high protein diet is the right diet. There's all kinds of ways and different diets that you can do to get yourself into a calorie deficit. And while if you can stick to these things, you'll lose weight, you might not be losing just fat. You might be losing muscle also. I like to put it this way. Your calorie amount will control your weight on the scale. The amount of protein you're getting in or your macronutrient split in general is going to control your body composition because protein is literally the building blocks of muscle. And if you don't get enough protein in combination with prioritizing resistance training, you won't have muscle on your body. And muscle is literally metabolism because muscle on your body takes energy to exist. So it's going to burn more calories just throughout the day. And then your micronutrients or the quality of those macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fat. So the more whole foods you're eating with micronutrient density versus processed things like protein bars and blah, 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 that might help you hit your protein goal, but aren't nearly as nutrient dense as like chicken or cottage cheese or Greek yogurt or something like that. That is what's going to dictate how you feel overall, like energy levels and your overall health on like a cellular level. So you need to create a calorie deficit in order to lose fat, but prioritizing protein, which is literally the building blocks of muscle, is going to help you with your overall body composition and your overall health. Number 14, you're not big boned, you're big backed. I remember I used to just think I was a thick build. I would say things like,
well, I'm just meant to be this way, or this is my build.
Or my body likes being this weight. All the things that I would say to justify it for myself when I would get down on myself. But when I got to 142 pounds for my bodybuilding show, that kind of went out the window because I saw my actual capacity. And so it's not that I have a thick build. While yes, I am muscular from all of the physical activity and resistance training I've done through growing up on a farm and throwing hay bales to always being athletic, playing soccer, gave me these old ham hocks. Competing in strongman gave me a good solid build of muscle also. And just being a little bit more, rough and tumble. It was easy to tell myself that, well, I'm just supposed to be this way. When the reality is I was overeating and consuming too many calories. A lot of it for me was because of emotional stuff, because I knew better, but I just couldn't get myself to do better. And sometimes that's even goal setting. Like you're afraid to set a goal because what if you fail? Or the other side, what if you achieve it? Then what? Do I have to keep maintaining that? Do I always have to live at that level? Like there's so much shit going on in our heads and different fears, fear of failure or fear of success. And so whatever the lie is that you're telling yourself to justify why you're not making progress, don't hold on to it so tight. And just know that if I'm just a human with 2 eyes and 2 ears and hands and I can do it, you can do it too. You know you can, you just need to figure out why you won't. Number 15, weekends are the same as weekdays. Here's what I mean. If you feel your best when you get up with your alarm and you have a routine and do all the things and you go to bed on time, you thrive feeling that way, why do you deserve a break on the weekend to sleep in and you don't track your food on the weekend or you do a full send and then feel like shit? That's not a treat, it's not a reward, it's not a break. It's actually a form of punishment. And when you look at it that way, it's like a whole new perspective. Like, why am I not continuing to do the things that make me feel good? Why is the weekend any different than the other 5 days of the week? This could be an area where you're throwing your progress out the window, especially if the weekend starts early on Friday. That's 3 days out of 7. That's almost half where you don't care about your goals anymore, where you're not doing the things to progress towards your goals. Something to think about. Food for thought. We had a client the other day on one of our coaching calls that brought up that on the weekend she had a treat meal, and that led to a treat weekend because she could no longer rein it in at that point. I think this is because suddenly our goals go out the window and we revert back to our old habits and old self. Is that a treat? So depending what your treat meal is, maybe it's just an untracked meal where you go out with, some family or friends and where you have a nice steak and some vegetables and a baked potato. A treat meal doesn't have to be a full send of we're going for fast food and like anything that you can get in this like 2-hour window because it's my treat meal time. You know what makes you feel good and what makes you not feel so good. And so stop falling back into the old patterns and old habits that got you to where you were, and keep consistent with the new habits and new patterns that are moving you towards future self and what you actually want. Number 16, protein bars are generally candy bars with better marketing. While yes, they do contain protein, often they have just as much or more carbs than they have protein. They're really not a great way to hit your protein goal. If you want a protein supplement to hit your protein goal, have a protein shake. It's literally just like a scoop of protein in like this much water or almond milk versus a protein bar. Because generally we overeat in carbs and fat and we don't eat enough protein. And so if you're trying to supplement your protein, you should be just getting in protein. Otherwise, you're just pushing up your carbs and your fats even more. And then you overeat in your carbs and your fats and you eat too many calories and then you're not making progress. And it's, but it was a protein bar, it was good for me. You'd be better off eating a meal or just having a candy bar if that's what you want, and then focus on protein in your other meals, or have a protein shake, which is just protein. And when you look at it that way, things kind of shift a little because I don't really actually want the candy bar. The protein bar is pretty much a candy bar with better marketing. It's not helping me get to my protein goals, really. Yeah, if you're in a pinch and that was the only thing you found in your car, in the glove compartment or in your purse, was a protein bar, or it was the best thing that you could find at a gas station and you know you're not going to be able to eat for like 5 more hours, okay. But any other reason, any other situation, if you had a plan of a meal, you'd be better off to just wait and eat the meal than to eat the protein bar. But I digress from that. Protein bars were a big way that I overate because I would just keep eating them because they're healthy, but I was consuming too many calories. If you watched my daily videos last year, no alcohol, no ice cream, no protein bars, no energy drinks, protein bars were on there because it's a slippery slope for me. And just because something's healthy or labeled protein doesn't mean it's the best option. 17, saying I'll eat better tomorrow to justify your shitty habits today is a bold-faced lie. Tomorrow you is just as undisciplined as today you. I would do this all the time. I would mess up, and then this line of like, I'll start tomorrow, just gave me permission for a full send. One flat tire, we're slashing the other 3. I'm just gonna fucking send it. Why not? I'll start tomorrow. No, you won't. If you don't have the control right now to make a new choice right now in this moment, you're not likely to tomorrow either. You don't have to wait for the magical reset when the clock strikes 12 or when the calendar hits Monday or the 1st or whatever you're basing this on. Every moment is a moment for you to make a new choice that serves your future self instead of your current self. And as long as you continue to keep the habits that are keeping you where you are, you won't progress to future self. You won't make progress in your health. You won't make progress in your fat loss. Whichever way you want to say it. Stop lying to yourself. Be a person who can make a new choice right now and feel good about it and not just send it. You have to be disciplined, but not even so much discipline as just honest with yourself and what you actually want. If you say you want to lose weight, but you don't want to do the things that come along with that, then you don't really want to lose weight. You want to overeat. You want to eat ice cream. You don't want to track your food. You don't want to learn. Because if you did actually want that, you would do the things that come along with it because there's no other way. The progress you want to make is on the other side of the work that you're avoiding. That goes for all things in life, not just fat loss. The requirement is the requirement. And so if you want to lose weight, you have to do the things that are required to lose weight. You have to understand calorie balance. You have to understand what foods are good for you, what's maybe not so good for you. You have to understand your self-awareness, your emotional state. And instead of thinking it's too late or wishing you had started 10 years ago, just start right now. Start somewhere. Something's better than nothing. And one of the worst things that you can do is get down on yourself that you didn't start sooner, because then you're just going to continue to hold shame and resentment for yourself versus just like, I was doing the best I could with what I had at my current level of awareness, and now that I know better, I can be better. Number 18, your kids copy what they see, not what you say. Monkey see, monkey chew. Hee. This is where I go back to, it's okay for your kids to see you using a food scale. It's not obsessive. It's not going to give them a complex. What is going to give them a complex is continually feeding them shitty food. Or they are having a temper tantrum on the floor, and instead of just sitting with them in it and riding it out, you give in. You give them the chocolate bar in the grocery store just to get them to shut up. Stop embarrassing you. It's okay. They're not embarrassing you. Everyone has a temper tantrum sometimes. Even full-grown adults sometimes act like a 5-year-old at the grocery store checkout. And if we can't regulate our emotions as full-grown adults, how can you expect a child to? So this is why I say monkey see, monkey chew, because they're gonna see you doing what you're doing, and then they're going to do that, not just what you tell them to do. So you need to be a good example, starting by understanding what is good for your health and what isn't. And I know there's loads of BS out there and great marketing that'll get you to eat a shit sandwich and think it's healthy. But if you can find someone like me and the coaches in the Badass Babe Squad to actually help you and not sell you another fat burner or GLP-1, and someone that's going to like teach you to fish instead of giving you a fish and set you up for success long term, you can instill these habits and the knowledge into your children so that you're setting them up for success in the future too, versus just trying to tell them what to do or tell them that they shouldn't be eating this or that when you're the one bringing it into the house. And then you're telling them that they shouldn't be eating it. So many of our clients have positively impacted their children, even adult children, just by changing their own habits because they're watching more than they're listening. Do as I say, not as I do, doesn't work here. Number 19, if you're upset with the scale, don't shoot the messenger, fix the message. Either lose weight or stop caring about your weight. Don't let that be the driving factor for you. If you're gonna have an emotional meltdown every time you look down at the number between your feet in the morning, don't do it. If you can't rationalize that that is just one metric in the grand scheme of things that you're doing for your health, don't get on the scale every day. Or what I like to do, instead of being obsessed and micro-focused on the day-to-day fluctuations, because they're gonna happen day to day, even if it's like the same time of day, the same circumstances, you got no clothes on, blah, 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 it's gonna fluctuate. And it's gonna fluctuate throughout the day too, because if I weigh myself before drinking this, we can pretend it's water, and then I drink it and I go weigh myself, guess what? My weight changed because now this is inside of me. That's how your water balance works. And so there's many things that are gonna dictate what the Earth's gravitational pull is on you at that moment in time. Don't be emotionally attached to it. What I learned to do, weigh myself daily, first thing in the morning, no clothes on, after I've gone to the bathroom preferably, before I eat or drink anything. And then I look at my average for the week, because there's gonna be day-to-day fluctuations. And if you just focus on those, and like yesterday, you had an amazing day, you did everything right, but now you're up a pound from yesterday, that's a pretty easy way to just throw in the towel and get down on yourself. And sometimes if you overeat the day before and you get on the scale and your weight's gone down, it's easy for you to justify that, like, what's the point? I can just overeat and my weight goes down. But that doesn't work. It doesn't show up immediately. So then you're gonna look at the average for the week and make sure it's trending in the direction that you want it to, versus being hyper-focused on the day-to-day and then changing the plan every 2 seconds because you're like looking at the small things instead of zooming out and getting your head out of the weeds. So the scale is just one metric. Don't get mad at the scale. If it's not going the way you want it to go over a span of time, you need to change the input. Change the message instead of shooting the messenger or throwing the messenger out the window or smashing with a sledgehammer. Not that I've done any of those things. Number 20, if you wouldn't track it, you probably shouldn't eat it. You know what I'm talking about. The things that you eat that you don't want to put in your food log because you hold shame around it or it'd make the food log look bad. If when you're going to eat something, you're like, oh, I wouldn't want to see this in my food log, your body probably doesn't want to see it in its stomach. Story time. One time, when I hired a coach years back, I used to alter my food log and lie about what I was eating to myself and my coach and make it look like I was getting my calories and hitting my macros, but I wasn't. But if you're not actually tracking it, it's easy to tell yourself a story about it. And eventually you almost start to believe it yourself. It's like, I don't know why I'm not making progress. My food log looks great. I'm doing all the things. Bitch, no you ain't. You're lying to yourself. You're lying to everybody and you're only hurting yourself in the process. So when I do my check-in, I'd be like, yeah, everything looks great. I'm not making progress. I don't know why I gained weight this week. And then he'd be like, okay, well, I mean, we're gonna have to increase your output. So, more steps or a little bit of fast, brisk walking as cardio and a calorie reduction so that we can make more of a deficit, when really I was just overeating anyways. I was always hitting my steps and doing what I needed to do, doing my workouts, but I was overeating. And so I wasn't making any progress. And eventually I got to a place where he had me eating like 1,200 calories and doing ridiculous amounts of steps because I was lying. And the only one that was hurting was me. The other thing with if you wouldn't track it, you shouldn't eat it, is if you don't know how to track it, you probably shouldn't eat it because it's probably way more calories than you think it is. Even if you're eating out and it's a well-known chain restaurant that has the macros for the meal in MyFitnessPal, it's likely not accurate because do you think that chef back there is like measuring how much oil they're using on the grill, or when they're putting the salad together, do you think they're measuring how much candied pecans and dressing is going in there? Likely not. So that's another spot where if you don't want to track it or you don't know how to track it, if fat loss is your goal, you probably shouldn't eat it. These are the brutal truths I wish I knew when I was overweight. And a huge part of me losing weight was working out and building muscle. So watch this video next where I talk about the only exercises you need to do to lose weight.